Here we are. It's the Knock It Off broadcast. Knock it off, okay? When I say knock it off, I say it to my kids all the time. And I was in here doing a podcast with David and Joe. What was it, 2 months ago, 3 months ago? And I realized I say knock it off a lot. So I figured, what's the best name for this podcast? And it's Knock It Off because I hear it all the time. I hear the crap. I can't work out. I can't eat right. I can't study. I can't show up for this. I can't. Knock it off, please. That's the basis of this podcast and what it's going to be. So let me tell you a little bit about me. And I need to slow down a little bit because I'm going way too fast. Maybe it's because I'm nervous. And it's okay. You don't have to cut that out, David. Um, you know, this journey that got me here today started in 2015. And I shouldn't say that. Digress. It started in 2013. I was at a baseball game, a little league baseball game, and I was sitting there with a good friend of mine, Aaron, and we were watching these kids play baseball. My son wasn't even playing that particular day. And we just started talking about life and everything else. At that point in my life, I had gained probably an additional 170, 180 pounds. And that's directly related to the fact that my father passed away in 2002, who I was if this podcast goes the way I think it is, you'll get to know my dad through this. But I was so close to him. I called him Geppetto the last 5 or 10 years he was alive. And I called him Geppetto because as far as I was concerned, I was Pinocchio and he made me real. So Geppetto, you get it? And so I gained all this weight and I was heading in a terrible direction from a health perspective. And I happened to be at a baseball game. And this is how things kind of work. They are like a domino effect. And Aaron and I were sitting there just talking about life, talking about the baseball game, talking about whatever. And somehow we got on the subject of working out. And in my life, I'd worked out a lot. I've run 5 marathons, okay? I've trained like an animal since 1977. And that's another story altogether, so we'll save that for later. And we were sitting there talking, and he said, "Hey, so you work out? Yeah, you want to go work out?" And he says, "Yeah, I think so." And we ended up committing to go Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. This is in 2013. And I thought, this is great because if I make a commitment to somebody else, guess what that means? That means I can't get out of it, right? I got to do it. And so we started going Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And really it was great because it was saving my life, but at the same time, it really illustrated how depressed I was because I'd go to the gym at 5 in the morning with him, come home after drinking a big cup of cream with a little bit of coffee and about 400 pounds of sugar and pastry, and I'd go to sleep because I was depressed. I don't know if you can relate to that, but my go-to was stuff my face or go to sleep. That's how I handled depression. That was my way of dealing with it. Go to sleep. And I'd get up at 11:30 and then I beat myself up mentally about, what are you doing? And so we're going to the gym every week in 2013. And then another buddy of mine, Greg, says, "Hey, I know you're going to the gym with Aaron 3 times a week. Would you go with me on Tuesdays and Thursdays?" Now I'm thinking, hey, that's 5 days a week. I get in the gym 5 days a week. That's going to start changing things. I'll lose weight. And I'll tell you why that didn't work for the losing weight process, but it worked for something else. It got me going. It got me in a forward motion, right? It got me out of that, oh, I don't really want to. Knock it off. Go do it. The voice in your head isn't always right. So I start going 5 days a week. And it was March 23rd, 2014 now, and I started the streak. And I realized that I was in a streak 56 days in. And I posted on Facebook. I said, "I can't believe I've worked out 56 days in a row. I wonder if I can make it the rest of the year." And that was important because what I was utilizing exercise for, and I still do, was as a coping mechanism because we all need our coping mechanisms to deal with stress, deal with life, and whatever. So I'm about 56 days deep now, wondering if I can make it the rest of the year, and things are starting to change. I walk into the gym one day, and another friend of mine, Sal, is working out on the curl machine. He's doing curls. And he goes, "Hey, Bruno." I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I got to ask you a question." He goes, "What do you listen to when you do all that cardio up there?" Because I was 400 pounds. I'm doing cardio like an animal. And he's like, "What do you listen to?" I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Do you listen to anything inspirational?" I go, No. He goes, you should listen to YouTube. You should go to YouTube and look up inspirational speeches. And I'm kind of a cynic and I'm from New York, if you didn't figure that out. And I thought, nah, I'm not going to do that. But see, this is the thing in our brain's broken into three spots. We got the conscious, the subconscious, and the unconscious. Nobody knows what's going on here. There's a circus going on in the unconscious. But in the subconscious, when it hears something that makes sense, it's going to try and force you to do it. Okay. That's Psych 101. I learned it in college. Trust me, that's how it works. So I go upstairs, I get on an elliptical machine, and my brain kicks in and says, yeah, you know what? You should give it a try. So I go and I find something to listen to. And I found something pretty cool and I started listening to that. And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. And then I listened to the Sylvester Stallone thing, his speech. You got to stand up. You're in the gutter. Life's tough. And I was like, okay, that kind of got me fired up, made me work out a little bit harder. And it sort of started to become a regular thing for me. But that's, like I said earlier, it's a domino effect. So that got me to a TED Talk by Mel Robbins. It's her first TED Talk she ever did. And I watched this TED Talk and she talks about how the odds are, of you being born are 1 in 400 trillion or something ridiculous, some ridiculous number. So you've already won the lottery and all you got to do, and she uses the 5-second rule is for me more as a metaphor of you make a decision in 5 seconds to do something, then you got to apply it somehow and fit it into your life. And she says, hey, you make a decision, you go for it, you make it happen and whatever. Okay. So I'm sitting there after the TED Talk and I'm like, that was really the most profound TED Talk I've ever heard. I should email her. And that, child voice goes, what are you talking about? You're a moron. Why would you do that? You're going to look like a fool. And I thought, yeah, I probably shouldn't do it. That's stupid. And then I thought, knock it off, dude. Let's email her and go against what you're thinking. It's like that Seinfeld episode where George does everything in the opposite way. And all of a sudden he starts to live his best life. So against my better judgment, I email her and I say, listen, the premise of the email was this: best TED Talk I've ever seen. Thank you. You've finally put me in a direction, and I don't really know what that direction is, but you put me in a direction that I can start moving forward in my life somehow. If I can ever help you in any way, please let me know. Sincerely, Charles Bruno. And I sent the email. Guess who emails me 3 hours later? She does. She says, I don't know where you are. I don't know who you are, but I was compelled by your email. And I said in my TED Talk that I'd help anybody and I'd love to talk to you. And I was like, what? I can't believe this woman who has a TED Talk is responding to me. And I text her, I email her back and I say, do you want to talk Pacific time, Eastern time, Standard time, Central time? She goes, Pacific time, 2:00 on March 2nd or something like that of 2014. This is a year before I discovered juicing and really started to get my life back. And so we had this great engaging conversation and she was really upfront and kind and gracious and said, the biggest thing that you need to do is even if you don't know what you want, you need to just start doing something. And it ties back into, I just started working out because my buddy asked me, right? And that propels you forward. So you just got to start. That's the key. And, we ended the conversation. And a year later, like almost not a year later, a little less than a year later, January 2015, and I got to digress to January 2015, the 13th of January, I go to the gym and I'm doing that habit of watching my stuff. And I was on a spin bike and I put on something inspirational. And then I thought, I'm going to go to Netflix. And I go to Netflix and I found this movie called Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead 2. And I'm like, what's this about? Because I was still Mr. Girth, Mr. Obese, okay? And it's not good to be obese, okay? So I was using food as a coping mechanism. It didn't mean I was a bad person because of that. It just meant I needed to change it or I was going to die. And I'm in the gym with my heart that's as big as my fist, pushing myself to the brink. I'm lucky I didn't die. And so I start watching this documentary And the whole time I'm watching it, I'm thinking, this is a bunch of crap. This is BS. This is a fraud. His name is Joe Cross. And it was the second movie, not the first movie. I was about 20 minutes in and I said, I'm not watching any more of this. And I literally found an episode of The Twilight Zone. And it's the one about the fighter pilots that they they end up erasing their memory or something crazy. And I watched that for a half hour. But remember what I said a little while ago about your subconscious mind? When it hears or sees something that makes complete sense, it's going to try and force your hand to take action. Okay. And I literally was at the grocery store at Vaughn's and I came home and my wife and daughter were sitting there. And in my bag of groceries, I had Chippewa cookies, peach Snapple iced tea, and all the other stuff that they wanted. The Snapple iced tea and the Chippewa cookies were my appetizer before dinner. Okay. And I walked in and I said to my wife and daughter, Emma was 17 at the time, a senior in high school. And I said, I saw this documentary the other day and I don't know if it's valid and I want to see if it has any validity. So I want to watch the first one. Would you guys watch it with me? And they said yes. So I sat down with my sleeve of Chippewa cookies. You know, I'll eat the whole damn bag. And my Diet Snapple iced tea. I don't understand. And I'm watching this documentary. And the whole time I'm watching it, I'm thinking, I'm not as fat as that guy. He's not working out. Because I'm finding all the reasons why I don't want to do what he's proposing. And my youngest son, Anthony, comes downstairs. Now, Anthony's the only one of the kids that kind of had a little bit of problems with weight. And he says to me, as we're watching the documentary, he pauses it and he says, "Can I ask you a question, Dad?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Could you do what the guy in the video is doing?" Now, keep in mind, it's workout day 297. And I'm thinking, why is he asking me that question? In a millisecond, you know, I have a thought in a millisecond. And I said, of course I could do what he's doing in the video. I've almost worked out 300 days in a row, Anthony. And he pauses, takes a deep breath, and looks at me right in the eyes and says, "Would you do it?" And I was like, okay, now I get it. He's asking me this question because it's twofold. He doesn't want me to die as his dad, right? Subconscious effect. And he also wants to know if there's any hope for him, right? And it really pulled on my heartstrings because when I was a kid, I got picked on a lot for being overweight, okay? And I looked at my wife. I didn't even respond to him. I looked at my wife as I'm going to say it like I said it. Am I as fat as that fucker on the TV? And she went, "Oh my God, you're disgusting." No, she didn't say that. She said, "I don't know because the people that love you don't want to hurt you, right?" I said, "No, listen, you don't understand. I want to know. It's like if I had BO, I'd want you to tell me. If I had spinach on my tooth, I'd want to know." And the best she could do was, "Well, you're pretty big." But that statement just by itself felt like a bat hit me in the head, right? Because it's devastating. Even though you know you're morbidly obese, you don't want to hear it. You don't want to see it. You don't want to live it. You just want to ignore it. And so I'm jumping ahead now because in my head, it's like I didn't even eat dinner that night. I was so frustrated. All I had was the Chippewas. Yay. Um, Emma and I are driving to school the next day. And she says, on cue, she says, as we're getting halfway to the school, she goes, "So what are you going to do?" And I knew exactly what she meant. And I said, "Well, I don't have any choice. I got to do it because Anthony asked me. I got to do the 60 days of juicing." And she says, "Good. Let's go to Juice It Up." I'm like, okay. We go into Juice It Up. First thing that hits me is the smell in that place. It smells like rotten produce. No offense, Juice It Up, but you guys got to get some deodorizer in there. And she orders me a juice with kale, spinach, green apple, and ginger. We get in the car and I'm drinking it. I've never had a juice in my whole life at that point. This is January 15th, 2015. And I'm drinking the juice and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to go jump off a building head first in the cement because this is disgusting. And I've committed to do this for 60 freaking days. And she goes, "What do you think?" I go, "This is terrible." And I dropped her off and I went to LA Fitness and I walked into the gym and I did something I hadn't done in about 10 years. Can you guess what that was? Anybody? Anybody? I got on the scale. Now, when you're morbidly obese and you haven't weighed yourself in a long time, you think you're almost 80 to 100 pounds lighter than you really are. And I got on that scale and I'm moving the little thing and I'm moving the little thing and it's like staying up. And I'm like, no, don't stay up. Come down. Don't stay up. Come down. It's not coming down. Finally, I end up weighing 383. I started perspiring. Nobody was watching me weigh myself, but I was mortally embarrassed. I was like, I'm a small elephant. What the hell? How did this happen? How did I get here? And I went upstairs and I got on the elliptical machine and I thought, how am I going to make it 60 freaking days on just juice? I don't even know how that's possible. And I said, I'm committed to Anthony, but how do I further this commitment? How do I make it so I can't get out of this? You know, because we're always looking for a way to get out of something that's going to take us through a real grind. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go on Facebook and I'm going to post that I'm doing this. Now, up to that point on Facebook, I had been posting no videos, but just saying, hey, it's workout day, 100, 200, 300, whatever, right? And I'm getting very little response, very little comments, because really, when it comes down to it, the people that were following me didn't believe for a minute that I was working out every day because I was still morbidly obese. And I posted that day that basically, in essence, I'm morbidly obese. It's workout day, 298. Wish me luck. I'm going to juice for the next 60 days. And all of a sudden, comments coming out of the woodwork. It was like, all of a sudden, I was recognized. They're like, you can do it, man. You can make it happen. And I think it was because they knew that I was in a bad situation. If you look at the before pictures on my Instagram page or my Facebook page or even on TikTok, it was obvious that I was either going to be dead or handicapped in some way in the next 3 to 5 years, okay? And so I started juicing, and it was the most incredibly hard thing I'd ever done in my whole life because it's tied to behavior and patterns, and that's a whole nother story. I won't go into that today, but it was incredibly hard. So if you're gonna do something to change your life, get prepared. I'm not here to candy coat it. It's gonna be freaking hard, but I don't want knock it off, like podcast says, knock it off and just stick to it. Make it small, make it attainable, make it something you can do. So juicing in its essence, the way Joe did it, I couldn't do it the way he had done it. I had to reinvent how I was going to juice. What do you mean? I mean, juicing, making juice, freezing juice, storing juice, cleaning juice. I'm going to jump off a bridge and end my life because I am not going to do that. There's no possible way I'm going to make juices. I'm not going to buy a juicer. I didn't want to spend the money on it. And I thought, well, what could I do to make this happen and still stick to the plan? And I thought, I'll buy juice. I'll buy pre-made juices, Naked Juice, Suja Juice. Suja wasn't even big then. It was just Naked Juice. I'll go to Jamba Juice. Jamba Juice was a good company then. Not such a good company anymore since they got bought out because they have a lot of drinks with added sugar. Added meaning like cane sugar, fructose, all that crap. Juice it up. And I started to do it that way. And my hard rule was if you buy a juice, this is important. You buy a juice and you read the ingredients. I'm not talking about the sugar content of a Naked Juice. I'm talking about the ingredients in the Naked Juice. If it's just apples, bananas, and whatever, I don't care. Drink it. Okay. Now, a lot of people are going to say, yeah, but it's still a lot of sugar. Hey, listen, I've never met anybody that's obese because they ate too many apples. Got it? I've never met anybody that said, yeah, I just eat too many Honeycrisp apples. I'm just obese. I can't help it. Come on. Knock it off, right? And so I started juicing, and that's how I started. And the other thing I did differently than Joe, and he and I have talked about this because he and I are friends now. I added protein to at least 2 of my juices every day. Because what's the body need? What's the body gonna do when you start to lose weight, right? If you're not getting your protein, what's the body gonna eat for protein? Does anybody know? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. They're gonna eat the muscle. So you're gonna lose your muscle mass. You're gonna retain your fat. Now you have a problem, right? And my concern was I already knew I was gonna get weak, physically weaker. And I thought, well, how do I offset that? Well, I'm gonna bring in protein with the juices, and I'm gonna make sure that my body's getting what it needs so I don't lose all my strength because you need muscle to burn fat, right? And listen, it played out. Now I'm going 60 days, and every day that goes by for the first 58 days, I'm like, I just want a Costco pizza for Christ's sakes. I just want to go to Costco and eat a slice of pizza. But I knew I couldn't because I made a commitment to my son. I made a commitment to the people on Facebook. I made a commitment. When you make a commitment, how important is the commitment to you? I really wasn't that concerned about getting my life back. I was more concerned about living to the commitment until guess what? Until I started to feel like my old self. See, we whittle away ourselves and we get fat or obese or we don't read enough or we something. We whittle ourselves down and it's like putting yourself in a prison and you start to imprison yourself and you lose abilities. So when I was 400 pounds and I was coaching Little League, I couldn't shag balls. I wanted to shag balls. What is shagging balls? Shagging balls is being in the outfield, somebody hits a high fly ball and you run and you catch it. Okay. Or you go run and pick it up or you grab the grounder and throw it in. Shagging balls is cool. But guess what? I'd be in the outfield. I couldn't do it anymore. I wanted to. I wanted to take off running but my brain wasn't allowing me to. Remember, we talked about the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind's job is to protect you. So if it knows you're going to put yourself in danger, it's going to limit your abilities to do things, thus whittling yourself down and making it so you can't get where you need to go. And so all of a sudden, 58, 59 days, I'm starting to feel like my old self. And I was in the outfield, and my buddy was hitting balls to the kids and I'm 81 pounds down. Still morbidly obese. Don't misunderstand. I was still 301 pounds. And he hits a fly ball. And I didn't even think. I just took off running and I caught the ball. And I was like, what the hell just happened? I had this conscious awareness of, hey, I just did something that I was afraid to do or wasn't really feeling like I could do for months and months and months and months. And all of a sudden I could do it because the minute you start getting out of that prison that you put yourself in, you start to function like you did when you were younger. And it's crazy. You try it, right? And I was like, okay, this is cool. Now juicing wasn't the enemy anymore, right? And I'm thinking, okay, coming up on day 59, supposed to start eating in 2 days, but I'm still morbidly obese. I'm still 302 pounds. I lost 81 pounds in 60 days. And I'm like, do we keep going? And the child voice is like, please don't. I want my Costco pizza, damn it. And I'm like, you know what? I made a commitment. I'm feeling pretty damn good. Let's just keep going. Well, 60 days turned into 300 days, but let me digress. On day 127, I had an epiphany. You know what an epiphany is? It's light bulb goes off. Boom, like your white conscious awareness. And I walked into Starbucks to order my wife a tea. I get my wife a tea almost every day, a green tea at Starbucks. And I walked in and I'm at the cash register and I'm like, look to the right. So what's to the right in the Starbucks if you're standing at the cash register? Does anybody know? David? All the food, all the stuff. I'm like, all the stuff. And I'm like, that's weird. I come in here, I just realized that I didn't notice that. I'm like, that used to be my focal point. I walk in there, man, I got to get me a crumb cake. I got to get me a scone. I got to get me something, right? A scone and a cake pop and maybe a bagel that day. And I walked over to it and I started staring at it like a weirdo. And I'm waiting for Pavlov to kick in. You know Pavlov's dog? Salivation. Nothing. I'm not getting any salivation. I'm like, this is really freaking weird. So I took the tea and put it in the car and I walked into Vaughn's, which is next door. And I started walking up. I went to the deli first and I worked from the left to the right. No salivation on the deli aisle. No salivation on the bread aisle. No salivation on the chip aisle. Nothing going on in the Coca-Cola aisle. Nothing going on in the Frito-Lay aisle. Nothing going on in the detergent aisle. I was hoping the detergent would get me going. It didn't. Guess when I started to salivate? When I got to the produce section, I was like, oh my God, something's happening here. See, a lot of these gurus and coaches and life coaches, they're just full of shit. You can't change your life in 6 weeks. A 49-year-old problem isn't going to be changed in 6 weeks. It's going to take the better part of 300 days to do that, right? And I saw the first marker at about 127 days, where I really, really had this conscious awareness and recognized that something had changed in here when it came to my pattern with food, my 49-year-old pattern with food, right? That's a lot of years, right? How many days is 49 years? Like, hey Siri, hey Siri, 365 times 49 is what? Come
To
on.
do that.
Oh, I'm on airplane mode. It's a lot of days, okay? At the end of the day, David's figuring it out for me right now. That's a lot of days. That's a lot of minutes. That's a lot of seconds. It's a lot of hours. How many? 14,600 days of the same pattern, right? Using food as a coping mechanism, using food as a pacifier, using food to get through the day, right? A lot of people use other things: alcohol, drugs, sex, gambling, self-abuse. I get it, okay? And we'll talk about a lot of those things in this podcast. We're going to talk about, I don't want to just talk about losing weight, health and fitness. I want to talk about everything. Knock it off, right? There's so many things we could say knock it off to. At the end of the day, the way to change something is to stick with it for a long period of time. And that's how you get your life back. And what's more important than getting your life back? Do you want to get your life back for 6 months, or do you want to get it back forever? This was 2015. Guess what year it is? It's 2024. And I got my life back. It started in 2013. I started cycling forward to get what I wanted. And here I am today, right? What do you want? How are you going to get there? Is it education? Is it better nutrition? Is it better parenting? Right? Is it better relationship? Is it better relationship with your dog, cat, whatever? I don't care. But you got to realize, if you're going to get that, if you really want that, it's going to take time. It's going to take energy. It's going to take, I listened to a TED Talk and I read some stuff in school about grit. It's turning out that grit's the most important thing. If you have grit, the ability to go through something that's hard and difficult for a long period of time to get to an end result, that's the key to success. So you got to be gritty. Are you gritty? I think everybody's got it in there, but then you got to practice it. It's like juicing. The first 60 days was hell. And it was like, I remember every night I go out to a job site or do something, and I get in the car and I start to drive, and my brain would start going, okay, what are we going to have? We're going to have the leftover pizza that's in the fridge? Are we going to have the leftover da da da? And I'd be like, I don't know. What are we going to? And I go, oh, damn it. And I get so angry, and I'd be like, I don't get to eat anything. I have to go home and drink fucking juice. It's horrifying. And it was tough. It was really tough. It's like working out every day. I haven't missed a workout, and March 23rd, it was 10 years without a single day missed. Now, I know a lot of people are going to go, that's not good for you. I don't lift every single day, and I don't do cardio every single day, and I don't do core every single day. I rotate it around. The body can do something every day. My premise, I'm jumping around a little bit, but I want to give you a flavor for what I think. When you're a kid in elementary school, how much running around do you do every single day? Think about it. And you do that from kindergarten all the way through to about the 7th grade, and then you hate it because the coach makes you run around the big field. Go run around the big field, PE. Ta-da. And you're like, I don't like this. This sucks. It hurts. And then by the 8th and 9th grade, unless you're going into sports, you start to want to get out of PE. And then by the 9th grade, 10th grade, you're done with PE. And now you start living your sedentary life. Well, why? Why not do something today? Well, I haven't worked out in so long, so do something for 10 minutes. Now the argument becomes, oh, what's 10 minutes going to get me? Knock it off. Knock it off. 10 minutes is better than 0, right? 5 minutes is better than 0. Let's use money as the example. Is a quarter better than 0? David? Is $5 better than 0? Right. Hey, it gets you started. It gets you going. How did I get to juicing? Well, it started with a conversation at a baseball field. Then I started working out 3 days a week. Then I started working out 5 days a week. Then I run into somebody in the gym who says, "Do you listen to anything inspirational?" And I think that's such a fucking idiotic idea. I would never do that. But wait a minute, it's not. I start listening to that, just little tidbits for a few days, and all of a sudden I'm like, "Oh, now I'm fully in, 100%." Even Tony Robbins, and I'm not a big Tony Robbins fan, but he's got a broken clock. My wife says is right twice a day. He's got a lot of good stuff. And then I run into Mel Robbins, and it's like, boom. Mel Robbins says, anything you want, you can have it. You just have to decide and start forward motion. Well, what's the forward motion? I don't know. Figure it out. Make it happen. There are so many things that we have to overcome in life, and they don't come without having to grind through something. Tell me one thing that you really, really appreciate in your life that you didn't have to grind for, that you didn't have to push and shove. You hear it all the time. People win the lottery and they're miserable because that's not the thing that's going to make you happy, right? What's the secret to life? Well, in my opinion, this is really important because it helps carry me through. When my oldest daughter Audrey was born, I realized what the secret to life was because before she was born, the entire 9 months when my wife was pregnant, all I wanted was a son. I'm a Sicilian New Yorker that I want a son. I'm going to have a son and it's going to be Junior and Junior. And in all the videos, my daughter holds, she's pissed off about it. Every video you're talking about Junior and she doesn't understand. The minute, the second, the millisecond that she came out, I fell instantly. She could have been an alien. I fell in love with her. And I realized in that moment, nothing really matters except that love, right? But it's so far reaching. It's not just love of your baby, it's love of yourself. If you don't love yourself, how can you truly love anybody else? If you don't love yourself, how can you really be there in the best light for everybody else? So the clients that I work with, because I've been, I guess, blessed could be the word I use to be able to work with so many people around the world and spread this word for 10 years now. How lucky am I to be able to do that and tell them, hey, and I ask this question of every single one of them, who's the most important person to you? And they always, oh, my husband, my wife, my dog, my cat, my daughter, my son, my cousin, my mom, my dad. And I look at them and I go, okay. And they go, so what do you think? I go, no, knock it off. They're not. They can't be. What do you mean? You have to be the most important person to you to be able to be there for them in the best light. If you're not willing to do that, you're not going to get there. And that's the key, self-love. And that makes it so now, guess what? You get to love as much as possible. You get to help them as much as possible. You get to show them things that they would have never thought could happen for them and give them that. And guess what? By setting that example, that modeling, especially for your kids, you're modeling a behavior and that carries on and it becomes systemic in a good way and gets people where they need to go in a good way, right? That's a critical piece. So Audrey was born and I realized it. And then Emma was born because I didn't think I could love two kids as much as I love Audrey. And oh my God, I fell in love with Emma. And then, we're getting ready to have a third one. I'm thinking, oh my God, David, I'm thinking we're gonna have another girl because girls for a dad are, oh, daddy, daddy, daddy. They love you so much. You're the king of the world. And then Charlie was born. I'm like, damn it, yeah, that boy. But he was amazing. He was incredible. He's an incredible human being too, just like the other two. And then I'm at the cardiologist in 2001, late 2001. Oh, was it 2002? I think it was 2002. And my wife calls me crying hysterically and she goes, I can't believe it, I'm pregnant. I'm like, what are you talking about? We're SpongeBob, baby. Every time the girls are watching Charlie, you and I are upstairs while they're watching SpongeBob, and we made Anthony. And now we have a second son. And now if I would have had the boys first, we might not have had more kids, but Anthony's another amazing guy. And guess what? By living this life now, Anthony was 11 when I started. Charlie was 12. Emma was 17. Audrey would have been in 15. She was graduating college pretty much. By living this life and setting this tone, I modeled a behavior that transcends things. I never tell my kids you should work out every day. I never told anybody in my house we're going to throw all the food out and this is the way it's going to be. That's not fair. You're trying to force your ideologies on people or your thing on people. And guess what happens when you force this issue, right? When you tell somebody what they have to do or don't do this. If you do this, you're in big trouble. What's the great Bible story, if you want to get biblical, when don't you eat that fruit from that tree? Dude, if they didn't say that, we'd still be walking around naked talking to tigers. What's up, Mr. Tiger? That'd be so cool, right? A tiger, we're having a conversation. I'm butt naked. That'd be fantastic. But they ate the apple because when we try to ram our opinion down people's throats, nobody's going to do it. So I'm not here to tell you to work out today. I'm not here to tell you to eat properly. I'm not here to tell you, and I won't tell anybody or force anybody to live a life of love or self-love. I'm just suggesting that, hey, these are the things that worked. These are the things that make it happen. And if you think, the child brain, that child voice in your head that's going, I don't want to work out today. I get it. I hear it all the time. I hear it literally, even though I work out every day. When I get down, yesterday I got down on the ground to do, what did I end up doing yesterday? 2,000 sit-ups, right? I had to do upper core, lower core sit-ups, and I rode the bike for 20. It was a light day. And when I started to do the 500 sit-ups, my brain was like, oh, do we have to? I hear that stupid voice do we have to? And you go along with it. You're like, yeah, I don't want to. And I was like, okay, so I always make this negotiated deal. And I lie to my child brain. And I go, all right, we'll just do 250 today instead of 500 of the military sit-ups. Okay. When I get to 250, I go, just 50 more. And now it gives up. The voice stops. Truly, this is what happens. When you push through, that voice that's trying to prevent you from moving forward with something difficult stops. It just stops. It's like homework. When I went back to school 4 years ago, because I'm wrapping up my AA degree, hopefully here pretty quick, and then moving on to my bachelor's. I was thinking about a PhD and a master's and a PhD, and I thought, I don't know if I'm going to do that yet. But the hardest thing for me was I'd never been an academic, right? It's like juicing. I never juiced before. And I don't know how to put it. I was afraid of becoming an academic because I didn't think I could because I thought I was too stupid. Sorry, that's a bad word, I know, but I thought I was stupid. Self-love, right? And at the end of the day, I wasn't going to follow through because the voice in my head's like, you can't do this. And I had all this homework. I had all this homework piled up that was due in a week. I had like 5 essays I had to write. And I actually went online and I found a guy in India that would write all my essays. And I thought, and he's only going to charge me $5 an essay. And I literally was getting ready to send him the money. And I thought, I'm sorry, David, I swear too much. What the fuck are you doing, dude? What's wrong with you? What kind of example are you setting for yourself? Forget everybody else, self-love, right? I'm like, you know what? Write the essays tomorrow. Just take the whole day. You don't get to work out until you're done and turn them all in. And I wrote, next day I got up at 7:00 in the morning, started writing essays, was done at 7:00 that night. I spell checked them. I made sure that the formatting was right. I don't know how I did it. I handed them all in. And guess what I got on every single one of those papers? Got an A on every one of them. See, we don't think we can. We don't think we can. That prevents us from starting. Then we never do it because that's the hard part. But guess what? When you do it, then you find out, well, I'm not dumb. Hey, guess what? I didn't think I could lose weight. I was working out every day. But until you change your nutritional piece, you got to lose weight. Come on, you're eating calories in, calories out. But I'm a proponent that bad calories are no good for the body, okay? Snickers bars, yes, you just eat Snickers bars all day and you keep your caloric intake at 1,500 to 2,000 calories, you're going to lose weight. But your body's going to be garbage because you're bringing in all this processed crap, right? My son says all the time, we have this argument, well, sugar is sugar. And I go, no, dude, I'm telling you from my physical perspective, I didn't do a blind study. I didn't do anything. But from the way I feel when I eat any type of processed sugar, I feel like crap. When I eat an apple, I don't. So there's got to be something going on in the body when you eat an apple versus a Snickers bar, right? It just makes sense. But what do you want? How are you going to get there? And that's really what drives me every day is how can we get people to realize they are amazing, that they are incredible? Well, I don't like saying that about myself. Bullshit. When we're born, we're like these little bright lights, right? And everybody goes, oh my God, look at the baby. It's so pretty, so amazing, so incredible. Well, they are. They're beautiful. They're amazing. But they're really not amazing yet. They're just pooping and burping and farting and peeing, and they got to be taken care of. And I love them, right? We love them. It's amazing. But when are we really amazing? I'll tell you when we've lived life, when we've lived 30 years and 40 years and 50 years, and we've accomplished all these things and overcome all these struggles. Now we're really amazing, incredible people. You're all amazing, incredible people. I tell people this all the time, but we want to hide, right? We don't want to step up to that because then we got to live up to something. It's like this podcast. David, how many times did I cancel on you? 5? 5 times I canceled this appointment to come in here and talk, and now I can't shut up. And the reality is, because the voice in my head was like, this is really the thought, and I've never shared this with anybody. If I come in here and do this podcast, it's going to suck, and I'm going to suck. And now I can't say, well, I eventually would like to do a podcast someday and hide behind. It's like hiding behind that and saying, you know what? I'm going to say that I'm going to do it, but I'm never really going to do it because then I don't want to find out that it sucked. But what if it did suck? What if this does suck? So that's your starting point. It can only get better from there. 0, 5, 10, 15, 20. It can only get better from here, right? That's the key. So what are we doing when we don't show up? What was I doing? Well, I was letting the F word rule my life. What's the word? David, what's that word? Fear. Fear was running the show. I was afraid to juice, right? I got to the gym that day. I get on the elliptical machine. I'm thinking, I can't do this. And then my brain said, well, we got to figure out a way to make sure we do it. And I made a commitment on Facebook and said, this is what I'm doing. I knew if I said it, now I further committed myself. And when we don't live up to our commitments, what happens? We feel bad. We don't like that. That's why if you're going to do something, hey, I'm going to do this. Make it so you can't get out of it. Because what's more important than you being here right now? It's like this podcast gives me a voice, right? The videos I've done for 10 years gives me a voice. But when we die, voice is gone. Now, somebody might say, well, you're being negative. No, I'm not being negative. Listen, seriously. When you die, voice is gone. That's it. Everything you've said up to that point, that's it. You don't get any more. So you live every day and show up every day and make it happen every day. The last thing I want to talk about is I remember I was in track and field in high school. And I was in discus and shot put thrower. Terrible. But I coached it really well. But I was terrible. And the coach taught me something that I didn't really pay much mind to until about 8, 9 years ago. He said, when you interact with people and they ask you how you are, no matter how you are, always tell them that you're fantastic, that you're amazing, that you're incredible, that you got it going on. Not in a narcissistic way, but just say, hey, David, ask me how I'm doing. Amazing. Now listen, guess what that does for you? When you walk into a room and you're not in a good mood, and somebody says to you, how you doing? And you say you're amazing, your subconscious goes, well, I don't understand. I thought we were pissed off, depressed, and angry. He just said we're amazing. I'm confused. Let's go with amazing. And your brain starts to help you. Your subconscious mind starts to help you get to that amazing. Now you don't feel as bad. What you say, you manifest. So if you're pissed off and angry and frustrated, right? You're in the car. I get pissed off all the time when I'm driving. People drive me insane in their cars. And I got to catch myself and go, no, we got to stop that. If I don't catch myself and I walk in to get a coffee or I walk in somewhere where there's people and somebody says, hey, Charlie, how you been? I go, I'm amazing. I'm incredible. I don't even think I said that. It just automatically happens. I say it, and my brain goes, hey, and the mood swings. It changes. It's up to you to start manifesting what you want. If you're walking around and let's say you decide I'm going to juice or do keto or do paleo or do whatever, or you're going to start working out every day. If every day you go to the gym and you go, I can't believe I got to go to the gym. This sucks. Guess what? It's going to be. It's going to suck. It's going to suck. So you got to lie. You got to lie to your brain and say, I get to go to the gym today. I'm so excited. And you know, it's a joke at first. I'm so excited. Yay. But guess what happens after 5 or 6 or 10 days? All of a sudden, you're actually liking it. All of a sudden, your brain's going, wait a minute, this is actually cool. Well, it's cool because why? Because now I can breathe. Now I can function. Now I can move. Now, I mean, really, seriously, I'm going to be 60 in less than 2 months. And I know I can grind harder and better and faster than most 20-year-olds. Really? Why? Well, because I'm the most important person to me. And I got to take care of me to take care of Charlie and Anthony and Audrey and Emma, right? And by the way, Audrey, your birthday is in a couple days. You're going to be 31. Happy birthday. I love you so much. You're incredible. You all are. Don't get on my ass about it. It's her birthday, okay? Um, at the end of the day, what do you want? At the end of the day, how are you going to get there? That's what this podcast is going to give you. And the guests that are going to come on are going to illustrate that because I'm going to have people on that are going to tell you and show you and make it so you can live your best life in all aspects, not just nutrition and exercise, but in all aspects. David, this has been. Do you have any questions for me or anything? You said you had some questions, but I was just on a tangent. This guy David is amazing, by the way. And if you ever need to get in a studio and do a podcast, he's the guy. Um, to get a hold of me, you can call me 951-433-0040. I don't care if you call me or text me. That doesn't matter. When I work with people, I'm of the belief that I'm in 100%. So if you call me and you want me to be your coach, um, be prepared to talk to me every day. I'm not going to talk to you every week or once a month because I can't help you if I don't hear you when you're down. And I know if I'm talking to you once a week, I'm only going to get the up version. I don't want the up version. I want the down version so I can help fix what's going on. Instagram, Juicing Strong, Facebook, Juicing Strong, TikTok, Juicing Strong. I have a YouTube channel. It's Juicing Strong, but I'm going to get a different YouTube channel called Knock It Off for the podcast. And David, I really appreciate you having me in here today. I hope you got something out of this. It seems like a giant run-on sentence right now, right? Does anybody know what imposter syndrome is? Look it up. I have it. So I'm feeling a little bit like an imposter. I'm making you look it up because I'm not going to tell you. And then, let me know what you think. Never quit. Never give up. Much love. Juice Strong.